is a Wendy Love Ed Show Extra, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with my guest, Dan Whitfield, who is the independent U.S. Senate candidate to replace Tom Cotton. Welcome back to the show, Dan.
Hey, thank you so much for having me again, Wendy. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's been a minute. I think you were on, I don't remember, maybe it was season 2 or season 3. I can't remember. But
season 2, I believe. And then I did a short segment on, I think, 420.
Oh, right. You did. You did. Thank you for that. Well, it's great to see you again. And I've been kind of watching the news and seeing what's happening with your candidacy. And it makes me upset and sad all at once, actually, because to run as an independent candidate here in Arkansas, you needed 10,000 physical signatures, right, between February 1st and May 1st. And you were doing real well with that. Right? And then we had a statewide COVID-19 shutdown on March 13th. So let's let our listeners and viewers catch up with what's happening now with that. So how many signatures did you collect?
So we ended up getting 6,514 signatures after losing about 60% of the time because of the state emergency. Wow. And I think verified, we had 5,954 signatures. So we got about a 91% verification rate, which is amazing. Usually when they verify signatures, it's like 50 to 60%. Right. So to have 91% is really cool. And what I think why that happened was because 98% of our signatures were from unpaid volunteers, which I'm really proud of. You guys
should be proud of that. That is amazing. Grassroots effort. I love that. And it is a really small percentage. I've been involved a lot in signature collection for other things. And I was a little bit for your campaign, but it's difficult. And you really need dedicated volunteers to really get the job done, I believe, as well.
Statistically, usually volunteers get the most signatures towards the end of the collection period too. So a lot of people have their own things going on. They put it off for a few weeks. And unfortunately, when people were putting it off for a few weeks, then COVID-19 happened and we just had no way to foresee it.
Right. I understand. So what happened after that? Did you appeal to the state? Didn't you to still have ballot access?
So it gets into a big story about corruption. So I know your segments it's going to be fairly short. So let me try to do a really quick story for you that goes back a year from now. So last summer, well, I guess first off, Tom Cotton's campaign first reached out to me last January, January 2019, about opening up a dialogue. That's when they learned about my campaign. A month after that, they got our state legislators to change the rules as an independent to, number one, increase the signature count from 10,000 to over 26,000. And then also to make it so that as an independent candidate, my collection period would be from February 1st until May 1st, rather than allowing us to start January 1st and turn them in on May 1st. So they changed these rules after finding out an independent was running. The Libertarian Party actually sued them about the signature increase, and they were able to get the signature number from 26,000 back down to 10,000.
Okay.
Last summer, the Libertarian Party was actually able to collect their signatures. They get to choose their window. So they chose to do July, August, and September of last year before COVID had happened. And then they paid a canvassing company $55,000 to get their signatures. Wow. Now, let's go a little bit before that. Not this last May, but May 2019, the GOP found that the Democratic candidate, Josh Mahoney, was fraudulently filing his FEC paperwork. So they actually held on to this information until 1 hour after the filing deadline, issued a press release stating that they were going to launch an investigation into fraudulent FEC filings. And 1 hour after that, Josh Mahoney dropped out of the race, leaving no Democrat race, and the filing period had already passed. So they tried to get the independent out, they tried to get the Libertarian out, and then they tried to get the Democrat out at the same time. And this is all happening behind closed doors. Their party is controlling all this. All right, so now to me. Sorry, I just need to make it was clear.
No, I think it's good to kind of give the background, because I'm not sure how many citizens are really aware of all those things that were happening. I have one question about what you said, though. So the Libertarian candidate could choose their window of signature collection, but an
Yeah,
independent candidate cannot?
exactly. How interesting is that? And
In
then
the
if you
state
look
of freedom? What?
it's unconstitutional is what it is. And that's what we're suing over, the unconstitutionality of it. Now, another interesting thing is Kanye West just got on the ballot as an independent for president. And a
Right.
lot of blacks are like, well, if Kanye West got in, why couldn't you? Well, what's really interesting is to run for United States Senate as an independent, you need 10,000 verified signatures. You have a fixed collection period of February 1st until May the 1st, and May the 1st is your deadline, and you just have that 90-day window to collect. To run for president as an independent in Arkansas, you only need 1,100 signatures. You don't have a collection window. I could start collecting today my 1,100 signatures to run for 2024. And then their deadline is August 3rd, not May 1st.
Wow.
So it is immensely less difficult to get on the ballot as a presidential candidate rather than a U.S. Senate one. Just
How long
interesting
has
thing.
Tom Cotton been in office, Dan? Do you know how long he's been in office?
Yeah, he first got elected into the District 4 House, I believe, in 2012, and then he ran in 2014 for the U.S. Senate, and that was when he first got into the Senate, was 2014.
Okay, so it seems that there's a lot of protection to keep him in that position.
And there is, and it gets even deeper. It's so crazy, everything that's going on. I've learned so much, but I'm going to take everything I learned to make sure everybody knows what's really going on, and that's going to be a really important part of my campaign.
Absolutely.
So we knew that our signature collection efforts were falling short after, on March 13th, the governor, Asa Hutchinson, issued orders of the state to declare a state of emergency. We could see our signature collection dropped off dramatically. And at that point, we decided, I drafted a letter asking the governor for either a signature reduction, an extension, or to allow us to collect digital signatures. Now, these three things had already been granted in a dozen other states because they could see how COVID-19 was affecting third-party candidates from getting on the ballot. What's interesting is Florida actually did all three of those things because not only do third parties need signatures, but Republicans and Democrats do as well. So they're like, yeah, let's give you guys a reduction. We'll extend the deadline and let you get them online. All right, I drafted this letter, and then I reached out to every other independent candidate running in Arkansas, which there are only 7 of us. I was able to reach 5 of them. Christine, her information didn't work. Everything on the Secretary of State's website was incorrect. And then the other gentleman running for House, which he didn't get enough signatures, I was unable to get through to him. But the other independents, they all signed my letter, and we sent it to Asa Hutchinson. And we never heard anything back. We found out a couple months later from an interview he did, he received our letter and he handed it off to our legal team. Didn't even look at the thing. So our next step was to send it to the Secretary of State, John Thurston. So I sent it to him and ended up sending it certified 3 times to make sure he got it because he wasn't responding. And then finally, I tried calling. Of course, our office is closed due to COVID. And then I sent them an email, and I got a response from his staff stating he did not have the authority to help out independent candidates get on the ballot and do this. That was the time when I decided to seek legal counsel. And we decided to sue the Secretary of State, John Thurston, for ballot access due to COVID-19 severely burdening our signature collection efforts.
Good for you.
What a process this whole thing's been. I've learned so much. It's amazing.
Right. And you're teaching all of us, and thank you for that, because
it's my honor.
Right.
So let's see. So Secretary of State John Thurston, his defense counsel is the Attorney General Leslie Rutledge. Now, we need to step back real quick and look at a fact. Tom Cotton has donated money through his campaign to Governor Asa Hutchinson, the Secretary of State John Thurston, and the Attorney General Leslie Rutledge. And on top of that, he donated through his campaigns, and he even created Rangers Lead the Way Super PAC and sent money to them through his PAC as well. So he's triple donated to all these people.
Is that legal? Is that, I don't know. So
yeah, it is.
Is it really?
It is. Unfortunately, it is okay for him to give them money, but now they're using their elected positions in which he helped them obtain to keep me off the ballot and to suppress the ballot in order to help him run with no viable candidate to actually beat him, which is an ethical violation. And so I reached out to the Arkansas Ethics Committee, and I never used the word ballot suppression or voter suppression, or I'm sorry, I never used the words voter suppression one time. And the gentleman who responded to my letter said, we don't handle voter suppression. So he recognized what voter suppression was going on,
Right.
but we don't handle it.
You never said that, but he surmised that from your letter. And said, we don't do that. Right.
Oh my gosh. So then I look at, well, who is the ethics committee panel consist of? One of them was placed by Governor Asa Hutchinson. One of them was placed by Attorney General Leslie Rutledge. And one of them was placed by the GOP Senate Majority Leader, who is the gentleman who helped change the laws to make it harder for us to get ballot access in the first place. So 3 out of the 5 people are already in the pockets of the people that are trying to keep us off the ballot. It's crazy how deep this goes.
Wow. You've uncovered this web that really, it sounds so corrupt to me and illegal. I don't know how it can all be legal.
Well, I'm going to make a big point of this campaign to expose the corruption. The whole reason I was running was on an anti-corruption campaign. Tom Cotton's taking a whole bunch of money from special interests and then voting on legislation that hurts us and benefits his donors. So the anti-corruption has always been there. And now I'm just seeing how deep it really goes. It goes more from the executive level and the legislative level all the way down to our state levels, from our governors, secretary of state, attorney general, our state legislators, down to city councils and school boards. It's so crazy.
Wow. So where does it stand right now?
So we had our day in court was on May the 27th. It lasted about 9 hours. The attorney general cross-examined me for 2 hours. Well, the solicitor general who works for the attorney general. And after that, it took Judge Baker, during the process, the attorney general's office sent 5 motions to have the judge dismiss the case, stating we do not have standing. She ignored those 5 motion requests and denied them all to keep our case going. So she kept it going for us. It took her 4 weeks to put out a 61-page ruling stating that we do not have standing for preliminary injunctive relief, but we do have standing for declaratory relief, and that although COVID-19 was a significant burden on our collection efforts, it wasn't a severe burden. So she left a very general and open ruling for us. And I think what that did was that gave us an opportunity. That put the ball into our court. So at this point, we went ahead and we appealed the ruling to the 8th Circuit courts. And if she would have actually ruled for us, stated we had all these things, and the Attorney General would have appealed it and locked it up in court like they're trying to do right now until after the election.
Right.
So it actually benefited us having the judge rule that way. That's why it took her 4 weeks to tell us no in 61-page document when she could have just said it at any point throughout the whole process.
Sure.
So we are in the 8th Circuit. We filed our appeal, and then on July the 8th, we filed an expedite to our appeal. That way we could have everything done before the ballots were printed.
Right.
That was July 8th. On July 9th, the United States Attorney General, William Barr, came to Arkansas, met with my opponent, Tom Cotton, and the Attorney General, Leslie Rutledge, the defense counsel for the defendant in my case. The USAG came and met with my opponent and the defense counsel. So then what they did was they had 14 days to respond to our expedite, and they waited 12 days, and then they put out an opposition to our expedite, stating that there were more important things basically that they needed to handle, that they didn't have enough time to do this, and it would cause chaos in our elections. And then they even went so far as stating we weren't diligent in filing our expedite because it took us 2 weeks to file our expedite, which is completely false because we did everything as fast as possible. We had to file the appeal, wait for the case number, and then file 2 other documents, wait for those to be filed, then we could file our expedite. We weren't waiting or anything, but anyways.
It sounds like you were really on top of everything, and they're just looking for ways to have this not happen and have you not on the printed ballots that will be coming out to all the citizens here to vote.
They're delaying the case because they know as soon as it's seen before the 8th Circuit, they will deem that COVID-19 was in fact a severe burden, because we can see how it was a severe burden to every single aspect of our lives. Look at us doing this virtually, working virtually. They closed schools down. They closed the schools down in March. Obviously, it was a severe burden. And then at the same time, so where we're at right now, sorry for all of that backstory. There's just so much to talk about.
It's so much. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm trying to keep it as quick and short as possible for you. So
you're great.
We filed our briefing on July the 22nd. The Attorney General has to file their brief. They had from the July 22nd until today is their deadline, August 21st. They still haven't filed their brief. So they have to do that today. They could have filed it at any point between July 22nd and today. And I guarantee you, they had their document done within 1 or 2 days, and it's just sitting on their computer using delay tactics to try to keep us off the ballot. Because today is when the election committee comes in and decides the orders of the names on the ballot. That is today. Mm-hmm. So what's going to end up happening is they've been delaying it. They'll have to file today their brief, and then we will be set for oral arguments on September the 21st. When we win our case, what's going to happen is they are going to have to reprint and redistribute the ballots to put my name on them. It's going to cost us taxpayers millions of dollars just so that they could try to hurt our chances, because they know they will have already mailed out some ballots and people will already have the original ones, and they probably won't get the new ones that were sent. Sure. Or unfortunately, the person responsible for reprinting and redistributing is the Secretary of State in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I'm expecting internal errors there, and they're just
there's so much that's so much corruption and stall tactics. I'm not sure how they get away with this, but I think they're not used to someone being so persistent and educated and willing to keep fighting. So thank you for doing that and for exposing this to all of us. Ballot access, voter suppression, these are big issues in the country right now. It's been a big issue for a long time, actually, but it's been more exposed now. And so thankfully, due to candidates like yourself and people really continuing the fight.
Honestly, it can be really hard sometimes, emotionally, stress, but every time they push me down, I've got the most wonderful supporters. They just lift me back up, and as long as y'all don't give up on me, I'm not going to give up on you guys.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's hard. The pandemic itself, aside from everything else, puts a burden on all of us. You have a daughter, a beautiful daughter who I've met, who's about to go back to school. And as a parent, you've got to be concerned about that, in addition to work and home and everything we all have. We've got this additional worry, So thank you for staying in the fight despite all the added stress. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about policy just so that people understand who you are and what you stand for. I think they got a good sense of it in your discussion today about ballot access. But let's talk about your policy on ending the war on drugs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the most important things that so many people are facing in their lives. Having convictions that follow them from when they were a young kid, maybe making a mistake. Maybe they were driving their friend in a car and their friend maybe had some weed with them and dropped a seed or a stem, and then they get pulled over and now they have a felony in some states. Mm-hmm. It's so crazy how these felonies can ruin a person's life, making a mistake as a child.
Right.
And then at the same time, we have people who are in prison for doing the same exact thing that people are doing in other states, wearing business suits, making millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. So I do support the federal decriminalization of cannabis, including nationally expunging cannabis-related convictions. A lot of people ask me, why not just legalize it? Well, if a bill to legalize it showed up in front of me, I'd probably sign it. But as far as what I think we need to do first is we need to decriminalize and then allow the states to vote on how they want it to be legal, whether it's recreational or medicinal. And by federally decriminalizing, what we'll be able to do is we're going to start protecting citizens and our legal businesses from the DEA. Because we have a huge problem where the DEA will go into a legal business, a completely legal business, walk inside, handcuff everybody, take them out, go back in, take all of their assets, take all of their products, and then go out, let everyone go and say, hey, we'll see you in 6 months, not arrest a single person. Yeah. And it's become a legalized mafia is all it is.
Right. Yeah, well, thank you for that. That's, I'm not one who's really actually for legalization. People are astounded sometimes when I say that. I want them to end prohibition and deschedule. I want everyone to have access. And so yes, decriminalization, expunging records, you're speaking my language, and our viewers and listeners will be glad to hear that. Let's talk a little bit also about privatized prisons. It kind of goes along with the drug war. So what are your policies about that?
Well, we just approved $169 million to go to LaSalle to build a new prison here in Arkansas to house 500 people. $169 million when we're one of the poorest states in the country, and at a time where 1/4 of the children in Arkansas are living in poverty and going to bed with hungry stomachs. $169 million. All we would have to do is just expunge 500 nonviolent cannabis offenses. We just saved $169 million.
I like the way you think. Yes.
Crazy. We have chain gangs here in Arkansas. We have a system built where it's not about incarcerating someone and rehabilitating them and putting them back into society. It's about incarcerating someone, filling up a cell. That way the system can get money for every day they're in that cell and keeping them in there as long as possible and setting them up for failure in the future with things like felonies and things like that, mandatory minimum sentences. We just want to make money with our prison systems, and that's not what prison systems are supposed to be for. They're supposed to be, you've made a mistake, you're going to come here, serve your time back to our society, and then we're going to rehabilitate you to put you back into society so that you can become another productive member and continue along with your life.
Right.
I was
talking. The law is about, it's hard to get a job. You're not allowed to vote. There's so many things that handicap a person for the rest of their life when they've already served their time, so it is a complicated issue, but I'm happy to hear that you're not for privatized prisons.
Yeah, not at all. We need to have federal prisons with federal regulations, because another problem with privatized prisons is they don't have to meet those regulations. Maybe they get a call, hey, we're going to be there on this day at this time to do an inspection, make sure everything's good. And then they make it look clean for that day. And then the inspection comes and then they pass and then it gets right back to how it was before. It's just a huge, big problem.
Yes.
And it needs to be eliminated altogether. We need federal prisons all the way around.
Right. I mean, we have the largest incarcerated population in the world, and it's not proportional, to our population. So, yeah, I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah, we've got 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's incarcerated population. And here in Arkansas specifically, we are number 4 in America for the most people incarcerated per capita.
Wow, I did not know that. Wow, yeah, things that we need to change for sure. Finally, I know you have policies. I read through your information again. I revisited it, and you have policies and ideas for everything. You've got a plan, and I like that. Let's talk about one more of them, and that's a livable wage. Yeah, what are your thoughts about that?
So right now, we have this issue where we are the wealthiest country in the history of the world. The wealthiest country in the history of the world, and we also at the same time have the greatest wealth inequality in the history of the world. Almost every single American citizen is in debt, whether you think about it or not. You're probably in debt and negative wealth, especially if you own a home, you're paying a mortgage. If you bought a car, you're paying a car note. That's negative. That's against you. That is not wealth. A livable wage is really going to help a lot of the working class people in America. We have to make sure that if you are working 40 hours a week and you are a single parent with 1 or 2 kids, you can afford to at least have a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment in America, where right now, if you're working minimum wage and you're a single parent, there's not a city in our country where you can afford a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. It's just, that's even before, taking into utilities, car payments, gas, food, clothing, school supplies, everything else.
Right. Yeah, it's criminal, really. People are just, I don't know how they can't be completely stressed. I was a single mom, and the struggle, I had a great job and an ex-husband who helped me. Not everyone is that fortunate. I know I was blessed and fortunate in that situation, which can be difficult. It was still hard. I cannot imagine not being able to find housing that I could afford and have a child or several children that are in my care. It's very sad that that's the case here in America.
And like one of the big pushbacks I get about a livable wage is how we'll put small businesses out of business because a lot of them can't afford to pay a livable wage. Well, what we need to do is we need to focus on rebuilding the way we do our taxing. We need to start taxing giant corporations that avoid taxation altogether and lower the tax burden for our small businesses. And to have a plan for helping small businesses being able to pay a livable wage. Number one, the first thing we have to do is we have to lower taxes for small businesses and enforce taxes on giant corporations that avoid them altogether. I would like to see us start taxing based on profit revenue rather than taxing based on who we are hiring, working and things like that. We need to get rid of payroll taxes. So what we need to do, in my opinion, is we need to start taxing small businesses, which I consider making between $0 and $1 million profit a year, 10% flat tax with no legal taxable loopholes. And then a medium-sized business would be a business that makes between $1 million and $100 million and tax them a flat 15%. If your business is making between $100 million and $1 billion, tax them 20%. And if your company is making more than $1 billion profit per year, we should tax them at a flat 25%, which is still 12% less than what our corporate tax rate is supposed to be anyways. Mm-hmm. But by doing this and enforcing taxation on the companies like Amazon and Netflix and FedEx and these different companies that avoid taxation, Walmart, is that we will actually have more tax revenue while lowering the tax burden for these small families who are literally going out of business because they're 37% in taxes while these giant corporations are paying nothing. But by doing something like that and alleviating those burdens, we can make it so our small businesses can pay a livable wage. That doesn't even talk about Medicare for all, and then allowing them to pay low costs for medical benefits to offer their new employees so that employees have benefits at very low costs. Sorry, I can talk about Medicare for all for a minute too.
I know. It's
so much to talk about, such a short time.
I know it is, but I really appreciate your having these plans, and they sound phenomenal to me, and will help average people so that they're not struggling and they're able to, have a roof over their head, have what they need for their families. This is so important, and they are all tied together. I think that it's hard to not talk about healthcare when you're talking about helping small businesses to survive. So I completely understand. Perhaps we can have another conversation later about healthcare itself.
Yeah, anytime.
Great. All right, Dan. Well, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Dan Whitfield, and I'm the independent candidate running for United States Senate here in Arkansas. My website is replacetomcotton.com. You can check out all my different things on there, my policy stances, my videos. Every single Saturday evening, for the most part, if I'm not busy doing something, I do a weekly live stream Q&A and update where I talk about what happened the previous week and what's upcoming for the next week, and I'll answer any questions that you all have. So I make myself very accessible. You can also find all my contact information on my website. I answer my own calls. I answer my own social media, all my own messages. Reach out if you have a question, and I'm always here to answer for you.
Thank you so much, Dan. And I hope when I receive my ballot, which I've already ordered, I will see your name on there. And I know that you'll keep fighting for that. And if it's not on there, people will be able to write it in, correct?
No, you will not be able to write in my name. That's a whole different issue that we could talk about. As a write-in candidate, you have to file during the November filing period as a write-in candidate, not an independent, but then you still have until August 5th to notify all the counties that you're going to be a write-in candidate. So unfortunately, when I signed my political practices pledge, I signed as an independent, not a write-in. So if Leslie Rutledge is successful in using her elected position to help her buddy run basically unopposed with no viable candidate, then I will make sure that Arkansas doesn't have to suffer from that kind of corruption in the governor's seat. I will run against her for governor in 2022, and I will help Arkansas get off the ledge of this rut that we've been stuck in for so long that has kept us one of the poorest states while paying some of the highest taxes in the country.
Oh, I so appreciate you, Dan. So we will see you on the ballot, and if not, we will see you later on the ballot. And thank you so much. If you want to state your website one more time, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wendy. It's replacetomcotton.com.
Excellent. Take care, Dan.
Thank you. You too, Wendy.